There we are. We are live, and I am, according to the clock up there, it is not yet exactly 8 o'clock. So if you are watching this, this is going to be a very special Saturday service because does everyone else see a weird box around my face?
Yes,
Yes.
you have a weird view. Yes.
Is that what's going to make it a special Saturday service?
This is going to make it a very special Saturday service. I'm going to be playing the part of Max Headroom. Oh my goodness gracious. That was not there a moment ago.
Also seeing some settings on the left side.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all my camera settings. Those are the
Yeah.
things that's backstage. You're not supposed to see that. Did I get rid of it?
Upper right hand Q mean you're a member of QAnon?
Hold on. I think I know where the mistake is. Hold on.
Wizard is letting us peek behind the screen.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Hey.
It might have looked like I was calm trying to find the base of that problem. Do we have anyone on Facebook who can attest that we have audio on Facebook and that they can hear everyone else? I think that's all
You
set.
do. You do.
We do.
Yep.
Thank you. Let me show you the voices. I don't usually listen to disembodied voices, but in this case I do because I know these people. Hello, people. There they are. Can you wave?
Oh,
And we wave hello to whoever's joining us on Facebook or YouTube after the fact. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rabbi Brian. This is the Saturday service. And the first thing we are going to do is we're going to slow down. We're going to slow down because we're going to slow down because I find my default setting, it gets faster and faster, and I get faster without having to think about it. And it takes some effort to slow down. Let's take a moment. Have a little bit of slow-briety. And let me ask, here's how we've been starting the last few weeks. Is there something we talked about last week that you have a new insight into? Or is there something from last week that popped into your life is there something that happened between the service and now about last week's service that you want to reflect on? Well, I'm going to assume that's a no.
I'm trying to remember what we talked about last week.
Let me change our tune for a little bit. And when I speak about tune, hold on. Hi, Candace. Sorry for spotlighting you there. We have 2 birthdays, and they have both asked for birthdays with song. So if you don't have to do it, you can plug your ears, turn your volume off for a moment. But it has been our dear friend Carol and our dear friend Bob's birthday last week, and they both voted for with song. So if you would please indulge them, we're going to sing a happy birthday to Carol and Bob. Everybody ready?
ready.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Carol and Bob.
Happy birthday to
Happy birthday to you.
What a lovely cacophony.
Mormon tubercular choir. Bob,
Carol, Bob, do you have something you want to? You don't have to make a birthday speech, but do you have any words of wisdom you wish to share? That's a
life
no
gets
from
better
Carol.
as you have more fun.
And Bob, thank you for that. Life gets better as you have more fun. I just had a little epiphany on something from the past that we've talked about. I must be in a good mood. How do I know that? Because everyone singing happy birthday didn't upset me.
Not even the way we sang it?
No, I was charmed by it, and as we all, I don't know, you all remember, but I have really gristled and not enjoyed us all singing happy birthday in the past. So apparently I'm in an okay mood.
Well, that's good.
Quick announcements. Let's try to go back to I statements. We slipped a little bit into you should and one ought and people do. And let's try to stick back with I statements. Although I statements cause us to be a little bit more, and I'm going to use a word intentionally here, obnoxious. I statements can be a little bit more obnoxious, but that's only using obnoxious in its original dictionary definition, which, you want to learn something today? The word obnoxious used to mean to be vulnerable. You had an obnoxious hole in your armor. You had a vulnerability in your armor, and I just love that the word has traveled so far from its original meaning. But I statements, let me get back to that. I statements are a little bit vulnerable, right? It's much more vulnerable to speak about ourselves and how we are doing. Quick off the hip answers. Think about your answer for a moment and then maybe type it into the chat. Everyone get ready to type into a chat. Why aren't you vulnerable? Why are we not more vulnerable? We are not more vulnerable because we're scared. Fear. And there's another fear. Potential hurt. To protect ourselves. Anyone seeing a theme here?
Fear.
Oh, I got one that's different. It's not cool. It's not what all the cool kids are doing. But everything else seems to be on we're not vulnerable because, sum this up for me. We're not vulnerable.
It's not cool is also fear.
It's fear of rejection. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like us to challenge this. I'd like us to get to the idea that it's really only by being vulnerable that we can get love.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I shouldn't say only, but we stand a better chance of getting love when we are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not worth the fear? So we're going to play a little game here. And those of you who have been doing this for a while with me know when I say it's a little game, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be fun. It just means a little bit of learning ahead. We've done this in the past, and I think it's time to do a nice review. This is The Change Matrix by a guy named Eli Goldratt. And Goldratt said for every decision we make, there are both positives and there are negatives. Positives and negatives. And we have two choices. We can either change, delta being a Greek symbol meaning change, or we cannot change. And that 2x2 gives us 4 different options. Goldratt uses the following imagery to help us. And we're going to apply this to being vulnerable. So I'll give you a heads up thinking. It says that first I got to tell you a little joke about change. This one's a good one. You might share it with people later. What'd you learn in the Saturday service? We give them this little bon mot, which is people hate 2 things. They hate change and they hate the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
I thank the 3 of you who laughed out loud enough that I could hear, and those of you who have goofy grins on your faces. I appreciate
I
that
smiled.
too. Thank you. All right, so we have 4 options. We have, if we don't change, this is the not change. The negative is, and this is going to be a very big, scary monster. Those are really sharp teeth, and it's really bad. Oh, that's one of my better monsters I've ever drawn.
Oh, yeah.
If we don't change, there's a monster. If we do change, there's a pot of gold. This can be in any currency you like. And usually, when we think about making a decision, we look at these 2 things. If I don't change, it's terrible, and if I do change, it's wonderful. And Goldratt pointed out that there are 2 other options. This one he refers to as the robber. That's a little old-time robber mask. Robbers do not wear these masks anymore. The robber mask is, if I change and I get the good thing of the pot of gold, I'm going to also get a new problem, a problem I never had before, which is I'm going to have to worry about being robbed. I'm going to have to worry about taxes. I'm going to have to worry about, is my money safe? I have all these new problems that I didn't have when I had to live with just the monster. I have all these new problems, which we refer to as the robber. So I have a pot of gold if I change, and along with the pot of gold comes a new problem. This is a picture of a mermaid. That's a mermaid. Thank you very much. The mermaid, Goldratt explains, and most of you already knew this, mermaids are allergic to gold, right? You knew that. A lot of times I teach this and people are like, I didn't know that, but it's totally true. You never will see a mermaid holding on to gold, right? Anyone ever seen that? No. Why? Because mermaids are allergic to gold.
Or
It's a
because
rough-
they don't exist.
Gold exists. Mermaids exist. Maybe. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I'm down a rabbit hole here. Goldratt says that if we change, we run the risk of losing something that we loved. So I had a friend who's a mermaid. I get the pot of gold. One of the problems with change is I've lost this thing that I've wanted. I've lost this thing that I enjoyed. A benefit of not changing is a mermaid. A detriment to not changing is a monster. A benefit to changing is a pot of gold, and a detriment to changing is a robber. What I hope to accomplish today, with all of your help, is I hope us to really analyze being vulnerable. And if it winds up that there are too many things we lose and too many bad things that we gain, let's not be vulnerable. It's possible. I don't think so. I'll let you know. I'm leaning on we should all be more vulnerable more of the time. That's my bias. I might have my finger on the scale a little bit, so please keep me honest. If I am not vulnerable, what is the problem? What's the monsters? What are the monsters? What are the problems of not being vulnerable? If I'm not vulnerable, I will have this problem that I would not have if I were vulnerable. We talked about fear. But there are more problems, there are more detriments to being vulnerable. You might be feeling it right now. Alice.
Isolation.
Yeah. You have to suffer alone. Nobody likes to suffer alone. Go ahead, John. Don't bother. I think we can try this without raising hands, but go ahead, John.
In my case, I'm not living life. It's like cowering under a blanket, having no interaction with anybody or anything else.
That's isolation.
It is isolation. I'm going to write not engaged, not real.
Isn't the fear part why you don't do it as opposed to a consequence of not doing it?
Boy, I wish I understood what you just said, Dan.
Well, you put fear down, and I thought we were listing consequences of not being vulnerable. Whereas I think fear is just why we're not vulnerable.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm going to take fear out of there. Maria, you're making a face like I shouldn't have done that, so help me.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm reading comments.
Is there something
face.
in the... Thank you, George. Let's look at that question. How is being vulnerable different from being weak? A great question. Are they different? Is being vulnerable different than being weak? Completely. Okay, so we think there's a difference.
Weak.
What's the difference? What's the difference between being vulnerable and being weak?
I think there's strength in vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because it requires courage.
To be vulnerable.
Vulnerability is a choice.
Go ahead, Robin.
Vulnerability is a choice, and weakness is not a choice.
Okay.
You choose to be vulnerable. Weakness is just something that happens.
Right. I love that.
And you become too weak to become vulnerable. So you have to hide.
Ooh. Become too weak to become vulnerable. I don't know if I like the sound of it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to agree with it at the end of the...
Oh, I think I agree. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Aviva, shoot.
Hi.
Hi.
Going along with what Robin said, there's a Sun Tzu quote that comes to mind, which is, appear strong when you are weak and weak when you are strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War, which is a really spiritually brilliant book. It's not actually about war.
Right.
Say that again, Aviva.
Appear strong when you are weak and weak when you are strong. And it's top of mind for me a lot.
Shoot, why?
I had a mom that wasn't really nice to me. So I have like a lot of kind of deep challenge with vulnerability where it's like I have to do a lot of work to open up to particularly women. But like kids and elders, I'm good with. Rabbi, you might remember some of that stuff. So that quote is helpful for me when I think about like when to wear armor and when to put my armor down.
Aside, yeah. Anyone? Oh, I have a quote, Aviva. Thank you so much for saying what's close to one of the quotes I have on hand. To share your weakness is to make yourself vulnerable. To make yourself vulnerable is to show your strength.
Amen.
I have a suspicion that we all are fine with vulnerability that we did in the past, and we might be okay with vulnerabilities that we will do in the future. And that's it. But being vulnerable in the present,
Oh.
I don't want to do that.
It's hard to do that.
It's hard to do that. Why is it hard to be vulnerable? We've all been hurt when we were vulnerable. You can't get hurt if you're not vulnerable. If you're all protected, if you're all armor all over the place, you're not going to get hurt. Slight problem. If you're not vulnerable ever, what you're going to wind up here? What's our monster? We're going to wind up alone. We're going to wind up not engaged. We're going to wind up not real.
And you don't get the gold.
You don't get the gold. What is the gold? Let's talk about that. If we change and we become more vulnerable, I'm not saying you have to be vulnerable all the time. I'm just asking for 2% more vulnerable in the next week. For some of you, 3%. Emily, what's the gold? What do you get? What's the benefit of being vulnerable that you don't get if you're not vulnerable?
Insight.
Insight? Was that what you said, Harold?
Yeah, insight.
You don't grow without being vulnerable. What else do you get if you're vulnerable that you wouldn't get otherwise? Yeah, Rebecca?
I think there are levels of vulnerability.
Yes.
But I would hope that if my being vulnerable was a reflection of what I truly believe is compassionate and just, I would feel awful if I refused to be vulnerable in a situation like that. But who can we be vulnerable with? We have to see if it's a trustworthy, safe place to be vulnerable.
Right. If you share, if somebody's making fun of you for holding your fork the wrong way or for a small infraction, they're telegraphing that they're not really a safe person to share that you're worried about your child. That they're not a safe person to share your heart, that my heart is breaking because of this. People let you know if they're safe or not. Yes, birthday girl.
I think it also depends on the context that somebody who had been the head of the FBI took some seashells and arranged them to say 4786. And he is now being investigated because 47 means the President Trump and 86 means get rid of. So he's accused of trying to get people to kill the president.
And about being vulnerable?
He was being funny.
Yeah.
But you can't be funny in this country at this time.
Right. Our leadership does not have a sense of humor. When was the last time we saw any of them laugh? That might also be a hint. It's not a safe person to be vulnerable with if they have no sense of humor. I'm back here. If I'm vulnerable, I will get this blank. If I am more vulnerable with people who are safe to be vulnerable with, if I am more vulnerable with my loved ones, I stand the chance of gaining
connection.
And being less lonely.
Connection, less lonely. It's the opposite.
I'd say friends.
I would go further than that. How about love?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Emotional intimacy.
I think that might be a definition of vulnerability. Say a little bit more, Dan.
Well, it's something you can gain by being vulnerable if the person you're doing it with is open to it in an appropriate way.
We gain emotional intimacy. We gain love.
And you're giving the other person the gift of inviting them to become vulnerable too.
Right. And
And
I don't know how to write that down.
Then you feel virtuous because you've been given yourself the gift of being able to give.
I love that.
Is it depth?
Let me say it again, Robin.
Maybe
Was that
depth.
Robin? Oh, it was Diana. I apologize. We gain depth. Yeah. We become real. We become real human beings. Folks, AI is wonderful and it's terrifying and it's wonderful. AI cannot do vulnerability. AI can stoke a debate. It can it can get really mad at people, or seemingly it can put out word, but it can't do vulnerability because there's nothing in there. Go ahead, George.
Well, we're only vulnerable. We only allow ourselves to be vulnerable to people that we perceive already love us. If we perceive somebody as our enemy, the last thing you want to be is vulnerable to them because you set yourself up for harm.
Let's say it on a spectrum. I'm going to agree with you. It's easier to be vulnerable with people we know who love us. It's really hard to be vulnerable with somebody who's antagonistic towards us. I'm going to try something. Missy.
I was just going to say, it depends on the environment a lot. So like in this group, I don't know a lot of the group, but I'm willing to be vulnerable in this group because there is a safe space created. So in retreats and things like that, I'm vulnerable with people I don't know at all, and sometimes more easily than with people I do know, because the fear exists with the people I do know of, hurt.
I'm going to say this, Missy. Thank you. I'm going to say this, and please don't take me as a braggart. It is easier to be vulnerable when you know the person in charge of the room has a compassionate heart. It's easier for you to be vulnerable in this group because you know I'm not an asshole. Right? I want to give extra points. Michael, I'm going to take your comment in a second. But let me give Michael a compliment ahead of time for raising his hand, for voicing something in this group. I know not everyone's an extrovert. I don't understand that, but I understand that not everyone's an extrovert. It takes something to share in a group. Go ahead, Michael. What do you have?
I'm an extrovert when it comes to vulnerability. It changes. The first time you do it with safe people, and it engenders connection. Then as you build confidence, but when you do that, you put down so much weight. People who have anxiety disorders, or me, I was a stutterer. When I was open about being a stutterer, I didn't stutter anymore because I wasn't trying to pretend I wasn't. It's like I'm being me, and that built confidence in other areas. So now, most of the time, I think I can say I don't give a flying F about who I'm vulnerable with, whether they have power over me or not. If there's a chance that me being vulnerable can do good, can help other people, I'm into it. That's good.
Thank you, Michael.
But I had to get there. I had to work there.
Michael, you've also, and I don't know when it was in the last months, but you were very vulnerable with this group as a whole. And it led to a really beautiful service and a really deep connection and a love that you gained from the group for being vulnerable. Steve, what do you got? Go. I'm sorry, Michael, take your comment. And
No. I'm just making noises. It's all good.
Okay.
Agreement noises. Thank you.
Steve, would you like to make some noises?
I want to amend something that was just said a few minutes ago about, it's easier to be vulnerable with somebody. You can be vulnerable with somebody that loves you. You can't find out if somebody loves you without being vulnerable.
Correct.
So
That's true.
in many cases, it's kind of a test, and you find out what the reaction is to find out if you're going to continue to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship, and you might want to say "I love you," but you're scared that the other person might not say that back.
Yeah.
Along the same lines, I would challenge the.
Take it off. I'll press it downstairs.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Andy.
I would challenge the assumption that we can't or shouldn't be vulnerable with other people who are not vulnerable. Excuse me. Sometimes I think the best thing we can do with other people who aren't showing any vulnerability is to show our own. Yes. And that makes it more likely that they will feel more comfortable with their vulnerability. And the relationship can't stay the same if one person changes and is more vulnerable. It has to change or end. Excuse me.
Thank you, Andy. Diana?
Well, to Andy's point, some of you may remember I told this story 2 weeks ago about a conflict with a barista over 75 cents.
Yes.
And I went back and apologized to her, and she did soften. Well, I went back in yesterday and saw her, and she leaned in and said, "I want to apologize for how snippy I was with you." And I said,
"Yay.
I tried to apologize to you too. And I said, "Tell me your name." She said, "Charlotte." And she said, "Tell me yours." I said, "I'm Diana." She said, "We're both princesses." It was just so lovely. And now I just feel like, oh, I want to go in and see Charlotte. So that vulnerability worked.
That's beautiful. It's a real human connection behind playing the role of customer and barista.
Yep.
We'll go. Greg, I'm going to get to you right after John.
No, I was just going to point out Greg's had his hand up for quite a while.
Oh, well, so I was right.
Yep.
Being vulnerable makes me feel uneasy, and that uneasiness should be a spark to figure out where I'm at, what am I doing that isn't right, and what do I do to correct it. So to me, there's a whole lot wrapped into the word vulnerability.
Greg, help me figure out where does that fit in? And I had it, but then I lost the beginning of what you were just saying.
Being vulnerable makes me feel uneasy.
That's right, but uneasy.
That's not the end. That's, for me, that's the beginning of insight to improve on whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's speaking or acting or whatever. And I see vulnerability as a positive thing to work on.
Yes. I'm going to add in ease. It's easy. That's our mermaid. It's easy to not be vulnerable. That's the default setting. It's comfortable.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
The word that comes to my mind is risk. Being vulnerable or admitting to being vulnerable depends on how much you're willing to risk in the situation. So we evaluate that, or I evaluate that.
And that's one of the things that sucks about if you are really attached to this group. Chances are you're not going to be as vulnerable because you don't want to lose the group. If it's a group you didn't care about, wait, give me back. Oh, my brain is not doing its normal sorting today. John, I lost the first part of what you said, which I thought went up here with the robber, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, I indicated it's a risk.
That's it. That all of a sudden we have a risk. Thank you.
But then
that's a robber. If we choose to be vulnerable, we have risk. Go ahead, John.
I just thought you went in an opposite direction. I think it's much less risk to be vulnerable in a group like this one, where that makes it more, the risk is much less.
Yeah.
I mean, the support you're going to get, even if you completely pooch it in the beginning.
Right. This is a safe enough group.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is a group where people feel safe. Go ahead, Ellen. I think it was Ellen. It could have been Andy.
Yeah. Ellen, another plus or benefit of being vulnerable, I think, is being authentic. You're being authentic yourself. Even if some of those other pluses don't happen, like connection, or if it's not received well. At least for me, I struggle to be authentic with people, and just the feeling that I'm being brave enough to be authentic is, a reason to feel good that you've been vulnerable.
Yeah, I love it. This is all about being real. Being authentic is about being real. It's honest.
And sometimes I think being vulnerable is easier than not being vulnerable. I think sometimes being vulnerable is easier than taking a position on things or putting yourself out. It's hard to put into words what I'm trying to say, but I think sometimes for me being vulnerable is easier than taking a stand on something. I don't understand, tell me more. That makes me uncomfortable.
If you get good at vulnerability, it's easier to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diana, then Harold.
So I was thinking about the mermaid and ease. And I had this image of the mermaid is, if you swim in the same water all the time, it's easy. But if you just picture the line above her as the water line, she's got to come up for air. And so there's the vulnerability, the reward of change, like coming up out of your environment. Maybe that's a bit metaphorically heavy.
I like it. If I can also add in, Diana, you vulnerabled 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't want to say, but you gained love from it.
Definitely.
Nobody would have known that Diana needed some love except she told us that she needed some love. And it made it a lot easier to know where to send the love.
Suddenly the stickers and hearts were coming.
Yeah. If you want to be on the Religion Outside the Box contact list, one of my friendly helpers, please put the contact list information into the chat, and you're all welcome to be members of that list so you can get in touch with each other. Harold, then Michael.
One of the things that keeps me from being vulnerable is I don't want to be fixed. A lot of the time when I say something, well, the response I get is, well, you ought to do this or you ought to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
And they don't listen. So I don't need to be fixed. I need to be listened to. And that gets to drive me back in a corner. I don't want to be fixed. I don't need 2 sentences of advice and then ignored.
Right.
I'm just having an insight into myself that's really interesting to me that I'll share with you guys. I just wrote a memoir, and in my memoir, I'm really open and very vulnerable about all the things that I regret, mistakes that I made, things that I feel badly about. And the insight that I just was thinking is I also really want to be seen and recognized. And I think I was really open and vulnerable in my memoir as a way really to be seen.
Yeah.
Which is another positive aspect of being vulnerable.
That's I just wrote a book, same thing. I wrote it, and basically the book is a plead, see me, see me, see me. I will write about it in a compelling way so that you get yours and I get seen.
Yeah, there is a lot
Folks,
of that in
I
your
gotta
book.
be I send out 40 emails to thousands of people a week. I send out 40 emails a year to thousands of people. Why? Because I'm dying to be seen. Okay, that seems a little much. Let me quickly scan and see if there's somebody I can pass the baton to, because I'm feeling really awkward at this moment.
Thank you for your vulnerability, Rabbi.
But that's honesty.
It's true of all of us. We just might not want to say it all the time. I mean, might not want to admit it, but I think that it's true of every human being. We all want to be seen.
We all want to be. Well, let's do a quick little side quest here. There are 4 qualities that make up love, according to Dr. Logan Fox. It looks like a dinosaur. What are our 4 qualities of love?
Seeing,
being seen.
Accepting.
We all want to be accepted.
Understanding.
We all want to feel understood.
Responding.
Not fixed.
Hi.
And we all want to be responded to.
If it's
These all
appropriately.
is vulnerability. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
I just said responded to if it's appropriately.
Yeah, we want to be
if you're understood, then hopefully, yes, that will be the case.
Al, you moved up into my top left corner, which is usually where somebody with their hand up goes, but I don't see your hand up, so I'm a little putting you on the spot, possibly.
I was just going to say that, you said that you're sending out the newsletters because you want to be seen. That's only a partial answer from what I know of you. You don't have to take that on as the whole explanation.
No.
I think you want to help other people
get
the courage to be seen themselves as well.
Yeah.
You want to share that vulnerability so that other people can have permission to be as vulnerable.
Thank you, Al.
Yeah. That's my read of you anyway. I could be wrong.
No. It painted me in a really good light. Let's make that good. Michael?
Just a thought popped in my head. What do you think about the relationship between humility and vulnerability? You think there's a connection there?
I have a off the hip answer, and then I'd love to hear from everyone else. My off the hip answer is there are people who are too vulnerable. They're vulnerable about everything, and they live it all the way, and it's too much. That was my off the hip answer, which I was hoping would stall enough to give one of you pause to raise your hand and then continue the conversation from this point on. Yes, Michael. Other Michael.
Yeah, I think I think what comes to mind just after the other Michael said that is when you have a choice, then it's connected, probably. It's a good connection to be able to choose to be vulnerable as opposed to being, burdened by it or fright of it or something, whatever the word is.
Other Michael, are you thinking of humility like being humiliated or like being humble?
Yeah, being humble. What? I just realized where that question came from. I'm getting into these writings by the Desert Fathers, and there was one story about where a bunch of monks got together and they're all talking about how smart they are and sharing stories and teaching each other and stuff. But the senior monk is quiet the whole time. So, by the end of the gathering, they say, "So what do you think, Father, about all this?" He says, "You guys are like a yard where the gate is open and any donkey can come and go. And like, you don't know what you say, whatever pops in your head. You don't know when to be quiet." And I think that's where my thoughts about humility are coming from, is when to talk and when not to talk.
Good point. Well, let's see what Ron, let's hear from you. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. When you mentioned those that are too vulnerable, in my experience, when I meet someone like that, they're not actually vulnerable. They're trying to manipulate me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you. Missy?
Yes.
I love you, honey. You can tell me later that I shouldn't have done what I'm about to do. Missy, how are you?
I have been better. I'm
got more?
Yeah, I'm slipped from heightened energy place that is like a mini mania for me into a little bit of a low grade depression. That's the kind of natural arc for my bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Neither severe, but it's always a shock because the elevated energy is so nice.
Yeah.
And then the slipping into the less energized is not where I prefer to be. But I'm taking my meds consistently, so I don't worry about it, but it's not as fun. Yeah.
It's not as fun.
Mm-hmm.
Missy, thank you for being vulnerable. I kind of had a hunch that you would pull that out. Oh, you got hearts coming up on the screens.
Yes.
Do we all get what happens? That's vulnerability. Being willing to be honest.
Thank you for asking.
Go ahead, Dan, then Ann, then Jeff.
Sometimes another person's past hurts can influence what they can accept in terms of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
My wife's mom basically would not accept kids being sick. And so, like, if I'm really sick, she's fine. But if I complain about a small thing, I don't always get a good reaction. And I understand where that's coming from. I don't like it, but I understand where it's coming from.
Yeah. It's all about our audience. Ann, Jeff?
You're muted.
You're muted, my friend.
Oh, I have found that one of the gifts of my getting older and retiring is that I feel so much freer to be vulnerable and authentic.
Wonderful.
If I had been vulnerable and authentic around certain bosses I would have been summarily fired.
Yeah.
One of my bosses, a president, ordered me to not give an award to a woman professor who won the highest votes among students as an excellent professor, because
her picture was in the paper along with the photos of a mass of huge number of people marching in a parade for gay rights. And because she was seen in that picture of 50 people in the newspaper, my president came to my office and said, "Don't you dare give her the award." So retirement has many blessings that I am finding.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was in a situation the other day where a guy comes to the front door, knocks on the door, and I have a lot of people do that in the house, and I blew him off. And my wife comes running down the stairs and saying, "I asked him to come here to look at to do some work on on the house, and you're acting like an asshole." So I went up to him and I apologized to him, and we sat down and we started doing the paperwork for him to do this work. And at one point he turned to me and he said, "I really need to thank you for apologizing to me." He said, "I knock on a lot of doors and nobody ever apologizes to me."
Yeah.
So you got to look at it from their view sometimes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Derek? You're on mute, Derek. There you are.
There we go. I find it particularly hard to be vulnerable because of my profession. Being in practice for more than 40 years, listening to people's problems and trying to help solve those people's problems, I cannot get inside myself and ask them to help me solve my problems.
That's not the right time, but there are people who are in your life who you are not their chiropractor. There are other people. Right. But yes, absolutely. I'm going to just take a break for time. We're going to do our prayers list. Maria?
Right. These are the people to whom we are sending light and love: Ashley, Tracy, Samantha, Joanne, Sharon, Nicole, Christy, Katie, Avi, Lisa, Mabel, Isamar, Gail Kosher, Alex, Nancy A., Margot, Gwen and Zoc, Sheridan H., Ebony, Arulane Hill, Rita S., Ron B. and family, Barry and Diana, Janet R., F. Schultz, Shirley W., Elaine Mayer, Amanda, Aaron R., Ed and Mary Lynn, Keenan, and Portia and Diamond in Spirit, their families, extended families, and friends, and those who suffered as a result of the tornado yesterday in St. Louis. If there is another person in our community to whom we can offer light and love, please put their name in the chat, and I will add them to the list on Facebook. And for the people who aren't named, but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well.
Thank you, and let's take a minute at a time. Thank you. There's a beautiful post from Facebook from Agnes Lamb Kehoe. And you're spot on. I feel the same way. Now that I am older and retired, I feel my authentic, vulnerable self came out. Life with family and community has been enhanced. Thank you, Anne, for posting that. Thank you, Agnes, for posting that. Announcements. I have 2 announcements. One, if you want to, and I'm offering this to you guys who are here on Saturdays first, on the homepage of rabbibrian.com, there's a new button. See that little green button there? That green button will bring you to a book club. We're going to have a 5-week book club book study on Rabbi Brian's highly unorthodox gospel. There's a morning and an afternoon session. It's 5 sessions long. Only 10 participant screens per cohort, and I had 90 people say they were interested. So it's kind of cool. I will be at the first and last meeting, and all the other ones, and our beloved intern Lori will be running. So the little quick announcement: rabbibrian.com. Look for this little green button right above my arrow there. And the other announcement. Uh-oh. Wait a moment. I have a new version of It's Okay to Not Be Okay. And I really did not want it to take over my whole screen. A bad day does not equal a bad life. Not all thoughts are true. Feelings are not facts. The only way out is through. Your worth is not contingent on circumstances. You are lovable and enough always. Nothing stays the same. You can't be everything to everyone. Be gentle with yourself and trust your inner voice, strength, and resilience. You are not alone. It's okay to ask for help. Focus on the things you can control. Let go of the rest. A little bit of homework for everyone. Oh, Candace, go ahead.
Just really quickly, I never got a copy of your book, and I don't know if I'm on record as not. If I didn't pay for it, then I can pay for it, but it's just kind of weird as
Let's follow up. I'll email you, Candace.
Okay, thanks.
Figure that out. Okay, folks. Homework for this week. Be vulnerable, or notice when you're not vulnerable and you wished you were. And let's next week come in with some reports of how did it go being vulnerable, trying to be more vulnerable, making space for other people's vulnerability. Let's continue this conversation next week. We're going to say goodbye to all of our friends on Facebook. Bye, friends on Facebook. Bye, people on YouTube.